How streamers are ruining Escape from Tarkov. Nerf everything by Tiggs.
Tiggs here, bringing you guys another Escape from Tarkov video. As you guys can tell by the title, it's a pretty big one. For a bit of context here, I actually stopped making these videos as I didn't really like doing them. They did get a lot of traction, but also with that traction came a lot of negativity. And the intent for these videos was to try and make Tarkov a better game and give some criticism and maybe some
So much pixelization.
We've made lots of these videos over the past, and I know a lot of you guys have liked them. But in long story short, I stopped making them because I just felt like it wasn't worth the effort making these videos, regardless of how much money it made, because I just didn't want people to be
Yeah, he's got exactly the same amount of subscribers as I do.
You know what? It's a new wipe. I'll make a video. There's new issues, so let's talk about them. So, streamers ruin Escape from Tarkov. No. You might think, you know, how does that work? You're a streamer. Aren't you directly impacting this yourself? Well, yes, and I'll explain that in a second. But first of all, I just wanted to say before the video starts, guys, this is just my opinion. I have no malicious intent making this video. It is purely just criticism, trying to give some insight, some perspective to people that may not understand, and hope that it may make some change in the game, as I feel like Tarkov this wipe can actually be a good wipe, regardless of how hard the changes have been. And if the devs are willing to listen, not just to me, but to everyone else, and, you know, collectively maybe use the poll system, then maybe this will add some influence to that. I don't know. I'm just trying to help. I love Tarkov. I want to see Tarkov do better as a game. So just keep that in mind. Everyone has opinions. This is mine. I'm not trying to cause any grief to you or anything like that. I'm just trying to give you some perspective. So, let's get into the video. The issue, as you guys can tell by the title, why are...
What really pisses me off and triggers me is just how much apologizing a guy has to do before he even says anything. And this is not me saying anything negative towards him or the people doing so. It's the fucking communities and people watching. Like, fuck you. Seriously, fuck you. If people want to make content, people are going to make content. If you want to watch it, watch it. If you don't want to watch it, don't fucking watch it. But people being absolute morons and giving such a hard time to content creators because of their privileged little sissy ass armchair generals wannabes, fuck you. Literally, fuck you. Let people do content. If you don't want to watch it, you're just not going to watch it. If you want to watch it, enjoy the video. But giving, like, some videos and some content creators just get so much shit. For what? For saying their own opinions? I mean, god damn, dude. If I don't agree with something, I'm just going to, you know, I don't know, if I don't like watching someone, I'm just not going to watch someone. If I want to give an opinion, I'm going to give an opinion. I mean, sure, you're welcome to disagree with it and all that jazz, but the fact that people stop making videos where they give their opinion and criticize the game or whatever, and they're one of the best players in the game. Tiggs is one of the best players in the game, and he spent 90 seconds fucking apologizing for the video that he's about to make. Come on, dude. This is the world we're living in.
Streamers ruin Escape from Tarkov. So, let me just give you a bit of context to this topic. So, I was in a streamer's chat last night, Desmond, just chilling. I was watching him look for bosses for like, I don't know. He was streaming like 10 hours. He said he's been looking for Killer for like 2 days now. Which is the standard, right? Early wipe. The game's reset. You don't want people being able to farm bosses at the start of the wipe. I get it. It makes sense. But there's a lot of contradiction to this topic, and I will explain that as we go through the video. So, the average player is not going to have boss quests, you know, 12 days into the wipe. That's true. It's only going to be streamers and hardcore grinders. So it's probably the top 1% of players that will be in this category of people that will have this quest and be frustrated while doing it. Now, there's a few issues that arise with this, right? One, the fact that the boss spawn rates are supposedly 5% spawn rate across all maps.
That is so
5%
stupid.
Isn't really that big of a number to be like, okay, well, you know, I can find bosses maybe in 20 raids. Because there's a lot of other things that will happen in those raids that will determine if you get the bosses or not. So, every queue that you load a raid, you're looking at waiting like, what, 3 to 5 minutes for a raid, depending on what map you play, and sometimes it might be even longer. That's a lot of time burnt in the game. Now, exclude the fact that I'm a streamer for a second here, okay? And I will get back to this, and I will explain my perspective on this as well. You wait 5 minutes to load a raid, you finally get into the raid. You're looking for the boss doesn't spawn. What do? You head to the extract. Why? Because that's the quest that you need to progress. Now, I know, guys, streamers rush through all the content, burn themselves out, etc. But this is the kind of thing you've got to do when you're a streamer, okay? You guys wouldn't understand it because you guys play games differently to the content creators, which is fine. But that's pretty much the premise, right?
It is true.
You go into the raid, the boss isn't up, what do? You leave. Okay, so now we're into another 5-minute queue. We do it again.
This is an old...
Another 5-minute queue, another 5-minute queue. And you know, the list...
How old is this video? 2 days ago. Brother, the video footages he's using is from an older version of the game, where you could toss the grenade straight out of your inventory and where the PKO6 had a really small dot.
Which is fine. I don't mind grinding. I don't mind the tediousness. Sorry, the tedious parts of the game.
Yeah, I was looking at the PKO6 and thinking like,
Those annoying moments build up to the positive moments of when you finally get what you're looking for. Makes it more fun. I understand that. But the problem arises when the queue times are so long. You've reset the raid, 10, 20 times looking for one boss. Then, got the other issue. Tarkov is riddled with cheaters. You finally get the boss that you're looking for, and what happens? You die to a cheater. Now, this is an issue across the entire player base. It's not just for streamers who play the game all day, 12 hours a day. We're going to get affected by it, but guess what? We can just go next raid. It's frustrating, sure, but we'll just go to the next raid. Now, what about John, who's got a life? He's got kids. He works really hard. He maybe gets 2 to 3 hours a day to play the game. He's looking for a boss 3 months from now, 4 months from now, and they're still at like 20% spawn rate or something. This scenario is going to happen regardless of early wipe progression, mid wipe progression, and late wipe progression, because boss spawn rates are so low. And to top this all off, bosses don't even have good loot to even argue that it's to slow progression.
Yep, they don't have good loot at all.
Progression, I've got counter arguments to that exact topic. So, you might say, well, bosses can spawn key cards. Well, guess what? Those key cards you can't sell on the flea market right now, so there's no real value to them other than using them. And then on top of that, they're only 10 uses, which has driven their price down a ton. And also, their gear in itself, like the clothing that they wear, their armor, their helmets, their bullets, their magazines, their guns. In my opinion, most bosses don't have good loot. So
it's true.
Their difficulty and rarity doesn't really match to their value when you kill them, which is in my...
Yeah, like when you take a look at a Sturman, for example, Sturman is a guy that can 1 or 2 tap you from crazy distances. It's a very dangerous boss if he gets a line of sight on you. For example, I know a lot of people don't struggle with Sturman, but I personally hate going to the middle of the map, getting engaged by a boss that likes to hide, and 2 of his goons. What does he have? He has a stock half-broken AK-105. The ammo can be good, but it doesn't have to be. It can just be a bunch of BT bullets. Those BT bullets will do much better to you than you will to him. And he can have a broken SVD.
Here, Flambe.
Okay.
Hey, Flambas, you are an awesome streamer now. I am off to kill some clanners in Mech Warriors. Have a good day and enjoy your day.
Thank you, Serenzik. You too. Thank you for 46. Have fun in your game. So, Sturman is going to have a key, but you might not be able to loot it and get away with it. He's going to have a key to his stash. That stash can be like 100K or it can be millions. It really depends, but it's not going to be that good most of the time. Plus, when you kill a Sturman, you still have to loot him and all that jazz. And his loot, it really all does come down to, did you roll that he had like a Golnik, which isn't even that good? Or did you just roll like BT bullets? The weapons are shit. He's got no armor. His goons, I'm not sure. I think they wear armor, but I'm not sure. But mostly it's going to be like, what, a tier 4? Right? And it's all half-broken guns, and it's usually mediocre ammo. It's just that these bosses are tuned to be super fucking strong and accurate, and he's capable of shooting ba-bum out of an SVD that shouldn't even have that fire rate, but whatever. You kill him, the reward isn't that great. The biggest reward is knowing you finally caught and killed that piece of shit, and the mission is now done and you can move on. That's the best reward you get. It's like, finally, fuck this mission, fuck this map, fuck this boss, and the millions I spent with it on an SJ6 and Propital or whatever, just running in here like an ape for the past 7 days just to catch and kill this guy once, right? That's really the biggest. Go for Reshala, for example. Reshala himself, he doesn't have shit. He literally doesn't have shit. His goons, usually, the best shit that you can get is either stuff you cannot dismount, like RK3 pistol grip or the buttstock. The rest is not that good. The ammo is usually average. The guns are nothing special. They're half broken as well. Sometimes they can have like good armors and shit, but mostly it's going to be tier 2, 3, and 4 with average ammo, average half broken guns. And if you want to get a couple of those good weapon components, you have to bring out an entire weapon out with you, which is heavy and takes space, right? Let's go for Glukhar. Okay, Glukhar has a good weapon, right? It's an M1A that's kind of modded, and he can have the Ash 12, and he has a private army. Yeah, but you should be rewarded for killing like 10 super geared guys. He's got, what, like 6, 7 guards in himself, and any one of those guys is capable of murdering you. And again, mostly it's going to be what? Tier 4 armors? Average weapons, some modifications which aren't too expensive to begin with, and a couple of good things. Okay. Tagilla. Okay, Tagilla has a tier 6 armor, but now they added it can be a tier 4 armored rig, I believe. The AK that he's using, I believe it's an AKS or something like that. It's not bad. Kind of fully modded. Not bad at all. The bullets are okay. Average. And the armored rig, like I said, if you get lucky and you get a tier 6 one, cool. And the mask, the face shield, the whatever you want to call it, sure. I would argue Tagilla probably consistently drops the most decent loot, especially considering how easy it is to kill him if you're gunning for him. Because very often, if you get close enough, he won't even shoot you, unlike other bosses that will just ba-bum and you're dead. This guy will actually try to remove his weapon and get out the hammer, and he's going to go at you at the hammer, which gives you plenty of time to shoot him dead. If you run into him unprepared, you're probably fucked, but then again, if you're running unprepared into any other boss, you're probably dead as well. And he's just one guy, right? Killa is nasty. Killa is super nasty, and he can be just about anywhere in the fucking mall, and he will usually get a jump on you. You just have to be lucky enough to not get hit and have time to respond. His helmet is what? Tier 4. His face shield is tier 6, but you can't see shit with it. You can't hear shit with it. You can't wear a headset. Most people won't use it. They will just sell it or give it to the mission. The best shit comes if you got lucky and he's got good ammo. But usually it's going to be just average. His RPK is nothing special. He's going to have a couple of nades. Nothing special. It's the armor. Level 5 armor. Even though I believe it's not even that good anymore. But sure, it's a level 5 armor. That leaves us with Senator. The fuck does Senator have? He hasn't got shit. He can have some stims you need, again, for the missions. The weapon is going to be, what, a VSS or PP19 or something like that. It's like nothing special. And his guard's the same. What does that leave us with? Which boss am I forgetting? Am I forgetting any boss? I feel like I'm forgetting about one boss. I'm just not sure. We got Reshala. We got Sturman. We got Senator. Glukhar. Tagilla. Killa. Sure. Kaban and Kollontai. Kollontai doesn't have goddamn thing. He literally has nothing. He has a Jetta, which is a fireman, level 1 or level 2 helmet, and no armor, I believe. His guards can, I believe, have like tier 5 white armor. What's it called? Gazelle, I think. I'm not sure about Partisan. I don't think he has particularly good gear either, but I'm not sure. The goons have all good gear. But by the time the goons actually spawn in the fucking game consistently, and you have a good enough gear to actually hunt them, the gear that they drop, you don't give a shit about. Like, you have your own. That's probably even better. The machine gun guy, what's it called? What do we say? What what was his name? Cuban, was it? Cuban, yeah. I think he has, well, he's got the machine gun. Besides that, I'm not really sure. I haven't run into him that much, and I'm not even sure if I ever killed him, to be honest. At least not while having the mission. But those are relatively new. These are the bosses that you need. Like, you religiously spend time playing the game. You spend enormous amount of time playing the game. You are promoting the game. If it wasn't for streamers and content creators, this game would have never been where it is right now. Thanks to numerous content creators that have dedicated their lives to making content and spreading awareness and promoting this game exploded, and a lot of people jumped in and they were like, yeah, this is really cool. Like, why punish people like that? Why? People are gonna farm bosses. First of all, even if that is true and they farm bosses, so the fuck what? So the fuck what? Let them farm bosses, let them have fun. The most fun I had in Tarkov was playing customs, rushing dorms, running into Rashal and his guards, a couple of players unlocking the door, finding containers in there, good containers, jumping off the roof with them, breaking my legs, rushing to the car, getting the fuck out, and being like, yeah, I just made $1 million. Like, that was the most fun I ever had. And running on interchange, hoping that somebody turns on power and that I'm going to have a good spawn, rushing the Tech Snow, Tech Light, and the Apothec there, looking for the LEDX, for the graphic cards, constantly running into scav players and players that are trying to do the same. Like, these were the fun times. This was like the most top 2 things that I loved doing in Tarkov. Now there's no containers. The loot is super rare and shit for the most part. You hardly ever see or find a LEDX. The bosses don't spawn. What exactly is supposed to be the fun aspect of the game right now? Like, exactly what does Nikita think is the fun aspect of the game? To just die? I don't get it. I don't get it. Thing about those bosses is they are content magnets as well. Awesome! Your game is getting promoted! You're literally... The more content people create on your game, the more videos there are, the more it's being talked about, the more traction it gets, the more interest it gets, the more players will play. The bigger the player base is. That's literally how the game got to where it is right now. Why would you want to kill that? I don't understand this stupid mentality of let's just have super low bosses spawn rate. Let's just have something not existing for the first 2 weeks of the game. It's like, come on, man. I mean, those bosses attract players and scavs the location to that map. Yeah, so? So? Good. Good. Because if I'm trying to do some missions that are not there, awesome. I know that a lot of people are going to be there, so I can do some missions maybe that are not there. If I have missions that are there, well, shit, I better go in prepared and up for a fight. Again, good. I don't understand. I really, really, really don't understand. Like, why would you as a developer take these locations, take these bosses and limit them to a point where they just don't exist? Because literally, you could just turn them off. You could just turn them off. And be like, yeah, you know what? For the first 1 month, there's no bosses. Then we're going to turn them on for 1 day, and then we're going to turn them off for another month. Because that's essentially what you're doing. Because as frequently as you see them, that's essentially the same fucking thing. It's so stupid.
Opinion, another issue. And I do have a solution to this, by the way. Just an opinion. I don't think it's going to fix the game, but I will get to that later on in the video. But that is a big thing, right? They're rare. They don't have good loot. You spend a lot of time looking for them. And then when you do find them, you end up dying to a cheater. Now,
oh yeah, you can see 60 rounders in the in his kappa as well. This is such an old. This is such an old
Just to back this up
video
as well,
footage.
This happened to me last night on my stream. I found Kaban twice, so I'll just pull this up real quick for you guys. Now, by the way, you know, I've played a lot of wipes, and this happens all the time. I'm used to it. It's fine. You know, I can stream the game. I can always run it back. It's whatever. It happens. But it is frustrating regardless. And, you know, if you're someone that only has 2 hours a day to play the game, you can see why people will just quit the game and move on and wait till next wipe. Now, these issues are only affecting me right now, which, by the way, is the top 1% of the player base. Via the topic of this video, how streamers are ruining the game, I'll get to as we go through the video. But look, okay, just an example here for the start of the video. This is the dude I died to last night. I kill Kaban. I get the PKP that I needed for my quest, which is the Gunsmith
22
24.
hours.
This guy kills me 25 minutes into the raid. Is he cheating? Who knows? I personally think he was, because he was just waiting for me near my extract.
He's a level 7 with 22 hours in the game. He's wearing a well, this is I wanted to say there's no way he acquired his gear, but this was a gift. This was a gift for Christmas, a gift that expired and I didn't accept, but yeah.
But, you know, people in the comment section or even in my stream will argue that I'm just wrong and coping. That's completely fine. But, you know, it's always the classic. The dude's got a Gazelle on, no headset, really good helmet. By the way, he did shoot me like 5 times in the chest directly. 22 hours on his account, 2 KD, and he's done 72 raids already. Sure, you might say it's a bad player, but I think a lot of other people would agree that there's probably some...
72 raids. So that's about 3.5 raids per hour.
Something suspicious. He ended up shooting like 5 or 6 times in the chest. He didn't hit me anywhere else. And of course, he was camping in the area that I was going to. Now, who knows? He might not have been cheating. Personally,
That's
I think he was,
fast.
but it doesn't matter.
That's
This is the
extremely
point that I'm trying to
fast.
make. This happens a lot. And I know there'll be a lot of people in the comments.
That's extremely fast. If you can play 3 raids in an hour, 3 raids in an hour, that's 20 minutes per raid. That includes loading in, right? That includes loading in and then going, doing your thing, and then getting out, and then the exit, and then unloading everything, preparing for the next raid, and going in. And you can do all that in 20 minutes? Few factory raids can go fast. Who plays factory immediately, though? Like, none of your first missions require you to play factory. All the people you're going to be running into that play factory are going to be bolties and pistols. There's not real loot there. Why would you... And you're new. This is a new account, right? This is your brand new account. Why would you start playing on factory?
Comment section of this video that will say, Tiggs, you're right, bro. When I was looking for bosses last wipe, this happened to me all the time. I ended up quitting the game because bosses at 25% spawn rate is even than that is rare to find them. And then when you do find them, you end up dying to cheaters, which is a reality. Why? Because the hackers farm these bosses to sell on RMT websites for the parts that the bosses have, i.e. gunsmith quests. So for example, the PKP that I got from the boss, I checked on an RMT website yesterday out of curiosity, $5. It starts to make sense, right? How it can be really frustrating. But this is an issue in all games. But anyway, here's another clip. Glorious. Most positive guy in Tarkov. He never really complains, but even in his example right here.
Did you find Sturman? No. Next raid you'll still find Sturman. I mean, bro, I don't really think I'm gonna find any bosses until they're gonna turn on the spawn chance, bro. It's stupid. Like, I've been looking for Roshala for almost 6 days, not a single spawn.
Yeah.
6 days. This
Yeah.
is a dude that plays 12 hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah. And how is this okay? How the fuck are you a developer and thinking that this is okay? You have one of the best players in the world that plays like 12 hours a day, nothing but Tarkov. Nothing but Tarkov. He's been playing for 6 days religiously. He couldn't even meet Reshala, let alone kill him. Like, it's just... I want to fucking... Ugh.
How on earth is anyone else that doesn't stream this game for a living able to compete with this, right? Now, sure, you guys might argue it's the first 2 weeks of wipe. It doesn't matter. I get that. But, guys, I got so many counterpoints to that argument. You're just going to have to wait, like, later into the video. So, like, okay, right now you could see this as just a streamer issue. But this issue actually persists later into the wipe, and especially like mid to late wipe, where the breaking point of the game is people finally get their boss quests, and they're like, dude, I don't want to keep running raids, wasting 5-minute queue times, looking for a boss that's
Is anybody else triggered that he doesn't put this on a weapon or somewhere and then move the weapon to the right?
doesn't spawn. Especially when it does spawn, you die to a rage hacker or something, right?
Oh,
This issue will persist regardless
medical
of
case.
the point of the wipe. And that's the problem, right? Bosses don't have good loot, they're low spawn rate, everyone gets upset when they're trying to find them, and it's a very frustrating experience all around, not just for the streamers that play the game. Now let's go back to the title a sec, okay? By complaining or
as far as I'm concerned, literally, as far as I'm concerned, Nikita could turn on the buses to have like 35, 40, 50% spawn rate, but when they die, you go to loot them, they have nothing. But you can finish the quest. They will just have the item that you need. Like Sherman will have the key, or it will only have the key for you once until you... the keys will only spawn until you actually get out with the first one. When you get out with the first one, it automatically gets transferred, and that quest is done. Every time you go to loot the boss, he won't have anything. It's a really stupid and unrealistic way to do it, but at least you won't get stuck behind these missions. Like, give the bosses normal fucking spawn rates of every, like, second, third raid that there's a boss, right? And you're just not allowed to loot them for the first however long you want, because, oh my god, I'm gonna get a broken AK with 2 mods on it and 30 BT bullets. Ooh, because that's a big ass problem apparently.
Yapping, whatever you want to say is done for that segment.
It's
Back
just
to
the
title.
quest.
How do
People want a
streamers run escape
quest.
from Tarkov?
That's it. That's
For
what
example,
Tarkov is.
Over the years, BSG made changes to things like this with bosses. First, they nerfed the loot. Second, they nerfed the spawn rates. And then over time, every wipe that we've had, the boss spawn rates has always been lower and lower. The loot's been worse and worse. That's fine, okay? That's BSG's vision for the game, is to make everything really rare, really hard to find. I get it. It makes sense, right? Wipes last like 6 months on average. They want to slow the progression. But wait, let's contradict that change. Here is PvE mode. They're up almost every single raid. So why even bother playing the PvP mode if you're a casual player or someone that just likes game like Tarkov in general, when you can just hop on PvE mode, play the game, bosses spawn at a chance where it's like, they might actually spawn too much on PvE, to be honest, but that's a different issue. But at least they spawn, right? You can find them, you can get your quest done. You're not frustrated that like, oh, it's 3% spawn rate. I've got to load 20 raids to have a chance of finding them, and then when I do find them, I either die to like some bug or a cheater kills me. Just go play PvE, right? So PvE in itself contradicts all of those changes in general on the PvP mode, which isn't really good for the health of PvP and isn't really good for the health of a wipe in the long term, especially as we get to mid to late wipe. People will start to quit the game more and more because of these things. Now, this is just one issue, okay? I'm just talking about bosses here. The Glorious plays 12 hours a day. It's his job. Just like me, and just like all these other streamers that play Escape from Tarkov, right? We are like the top 1% of the players that play this game. Now, when things get changed or fixed or nerfed, who do you think BSG looks to when these changes come through? The content creators of the video game, the YouTubers, the Twitch streamers. Why? Because that's the easiest way to see what's going on in the game. I don't think BSG wants to look at Reddit or any of these other social media platforms. Why? Because they get tons of hate, which you cannot blame them. But they look to streamers and YouTubers to balance the game. If there's any some sort of bug, it'll get fixed because it's on a stream. Or if something's too overpowered, it'll get fixed because a streamer's promoting it throughout the community. And then, you know, hearsay, everyone hears about it, boom, it gets nerfed. So that's the issue, right? Is the top 1% of players, to BSG's eyes, are the influence to nerf everything, which is the problem. Because majority of the players, which is you guys, do not get the opportunity to play this much. So because we can play the game this much, we are directly impacting the changes that happen on this game without even telling the devs to do anything. Because the devs assume that streamers are the ones influencing everyone in the game to be able to speed through the progression of the game. If you follow what I'm trying to say here, I don't know if I explained that bad, but I can play 12 hours a day. I can fly through the progression no matter how much they nerf stuff. In BSG's eyes, oh, if this is possible, let's make it not possible and make it more tiresome for that person. And in turn, that affects all of the other dudes behind us, which you guys, which is the issue, right? It's ruining the game for everyone.
Dude, watching him loot in this video, like, I bet you he chose this particular video that's super old on purpose because there used to be so much loot in the game. Holy mother of Jesus. The amount of loot he's encountering in every single room is crazy. I could loot half the labs and not have all this much.
Everyone. Because BSG is basically looking at streamers as like, oh, this is the progression gap here. We need to nerf this because people are flying through the content. When the reality is, it's just the top 1% of the players, guys. It's just streamers and maybe a few hardcore gamers that can really just sit there all day, farm and fly through quests. That's the issue. That's how the game has been ruined, because that is how the nerfs are made to this game. And that's why bosses are so low spawn rate. When I first found Tarkov, I think bosses had like a 30% spawn rate at the start of wipe. What does that do for raids? You load into a raid of Tarkov, right? It's 30% spawn rate. Every 3 raids, you'll probably see a boss. What does that do to a raid? It makes the raid have random events, which is also making the raid unique. It's adding a element of randomness to the raid, where everyone that's loaded in is like, wait, do I have this boss quest? Let's go check it out. Also, wait, we just go kill the boss anyway, because he might have good loot. Right? It's adding to this randomness effect. It's giving a bit of what's the word? Uniqueness to the raid, where it's not just, okay, load into raid, head to Crack House, loot Crack House for the meds and the intel. Then go through to Fort, loot Fort crates, boom. Then wrap to gas station, turn on power, and extract. That is like your typical raid, right? When it comes to like looting and Tarkov. It's quite scripted. Most maps have figured out now, unless you're a new player. But that's pretty much how Tarkov's been. You got your keys, load into raid, you go to the high priority areas that have usually got the good loot. You hit your keys, you get your quest items, grab a bit of money, kill some scavs, and then you leave. Bosses, in general, completely change the dynamic of a raid because of that. The problem is, people that play Tarkov early wipe don't get to experience this feeling because bosses are such a low spawn rate. And especially like mid wipe, when the bosses get buffed up a little bit, they're like 15%, dude. Like, that should have been the starting percentage of the bosses at the start of the wipe. And by that time anyway, a lot of these players will have already quit. And I know you guys in the comment section will probably agree with this. Not all of you, but I think a good portion of you guys will probably quit this game 2 to 3 months into a wipe, which isn't really healthy for the wipe cycle. But yeah, that's just the premise of this and why the title of this video is named that way. I hope some of you guys can understand that perspective, but it is true. The devs nerf stuff because of the top 1% players. And in reality, it doesn't actually stop anything because we can just keep playing. And then the people that get affected by this are you guys, and that's the problem. And that's why Tarkov is slowly getting more and more issues over time. Now, this is just one topic. We're talking about bosses, okay? There's many other things like this in the game, like loot, for example, maps and stuff like that. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. I probably explained that pretty bad, but I think most of you understand what I'm trying to say. But yeah, so let's talk to the solutions, not just complaining or yapping or whatever you guys want to say. So, my solution. The easiest thing is just buff boss spawn rates, right? Boom. Make them 20%. Once every 5 raids, you'll probably see a boss. You know, if we're looking on a matchmaking standpoint, if the average raid takes 5 minutes, which most maps do, especially if someone in your raid's got a hard drive, that's 25 minutes of matching just to see the bosses once. 25 minutes. That's a lot of time burnt looking for games. Now, I know some of you guys are like, oh, well, I get matches in 3 minutes. Well, listen, I don't. This wipe, I've been getting hella long queue times, so I'm just talking from my perspective. 25 minutes to find a boss once, you know, at 20% spawn rate. Even that is kind of crazy if you think about it. How does all of the things that I've just said make sense when it comes to the contradiction side? Boss is a 5% spawn rate. Let's just hypothetically say that spawn rate to slow progression, okay? Not just for the 1%, but they just slow progression down. Well, let's talk about Arena for a second, okay? You can boot up Arena, you can run a raid on Arena, it takes 10 minutes on free-for-all, and you can make over 200k.
Oh, you can see the IR having a reflection that it used to have and it doesn't have anymore.
Okay. Now, this doesn't account for the quests that you can do daily and weekly on the game that will give you Christmas balls, rubles, GP coins, which allows you to go to traders like Ref and buy best in slot kits early into the wipe. And then you've also got stuff like Lega medals, which I've already got 3 of, by the way, just by playing within the first week of wipe from the quest on Arena.
Yeah, it's
which
true.
allows you to either sell it for 500k a piece or buy like meta items that are OP from Ref. And you can do that without having to progress any of your other traders. So not only are you getting infinite money from playing Arena, there's no limit to it, other than the fact that you can only transfer 1.5 mil, but you can still transfer the GP coins, you can still transfer the Christmas ball, the weapon crates, the item crates, the Lega medals. Those things in itself already speed up the progression of the wipe way more than a boss would in a 25% spawn rate, because the loot is just so much better and it's consistent. Arena gives you XP to your character level. So not only do you progress faster when going through your quests on the main game, you're able to unlock more quests and speed up your progression even quicker. And the requirement to get max traders is even faster because you've already got the required level. And that's all through playing Arena. Now, I don't suggest nerfing Arena, by the way. I think Arena's great. I think it's good at what it does. I think bosses just need a big change. Now, that's one contradiction to why, the devs nerfing bosses are stupid and making them rare. Okay? Now, let's talk about another one. We spoke about Arena. I think you guys get where I'm going with that. Let's talk about scav running. You can scav run, right? The queue times can be long because there's so many people doing it early wipe. True. That sucks. But then you've got to understand something. You're not losing anything. You're loading into raid and you've only got something to gain, which is amazing for people. And you cannot blame people for doing that because the game is set up in a way where it's frustrating to run a PMC. Now, if we're talking from a regression standpoint, which this is what the video is about, bosses, regression. Bosses being at 5% spawn rate, being extremely rare to find, to slow progression down for the top 1% of players, when really it's just affecting everyone else but the streamers, which they've intended the nerf for, obviously, to slow progression. You can just scav run. And what happens when you scav run? You go into raid, okay? You don't lose anything other than your time in the queue screens. The more you do it, the more rep you get for your scav karma. The higher scav karma that you get, the better the loot is that you spawn with, i.e. ammunition, guns, gear, key cards, and the keys that you can spawn with. Even the grenades, for example. You get like impacts and vogs. The more you do it, the more time you invest into it, the more you get out of it. And if you wanted to speedrun scav rep, you can easily do it by just hitting cars on your PMC with a pistol. And you'll have a better time maining your scav early wipe than you would playing your PMC. Because the progression on scavving is just so much better than PMC. Now, I'm not suggesting that BSG nerfs scavving. I think this is fine. So you do all this, you scav run, the more you do it, the better loot you spawn in with. But then it comes back to the topic. Slow progression. How are we slowing progression down via bosses when these two other major issues, major functions are in the game that rapidly accelerate the progression of the wipe? It makes no sense to me, guys. And I think you guys get exactly what I'm saying here. It makes a lot of sense. You've got these two alternatives that are just 5 times better than a single boss that you can kill. That you can do infinitely every single day, non-stop, compared to a 25-minute queue time looking for one boss for a quest. And this issue will persist 3 months into this wipe, 4 months into this wipe, until the devs are finally like, alright guys, it's time to do events for Escape from Tarkov, because there's not many people playing. Here's a 50% spawn rate on Killer. By that time, it's already too late.
Yeah.
Your player base is gone.
Yeah.
People are waiting for the next swipe. And the only people left really playing the game are the true believers, whatever you want to call them, and the streamers. And what does it go back to? People like me complaining that the game's dead.
Not even all of them.
Same.
Not even all of them. I used to play Tarkov religiously. I have about 4,500 hours in it. I mean, that's nothing in comparison to some of the guys with 10, 15, 20,000 hours. But dude, 4,500 fucking hours in one game is a lot of time. That was about 6 months when I was almost playing nothing but Tarkov. Those were the good days. Right now, about month and a half, 2 months into the wipe, I give up. I'm done. I don't want to play the game anymore. Because in about a month and a half, I'm going to do all the fucking quests that I need. Literally, like all the quests that I need besides the bosses. Literally. Just the bosses. And then I'm going to spend the next month and a half or 2 trying to hunt down these bosses. Sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully. By the time I'm done and I acquire, for example, Kappa, I don't have any use for Kappa anymore because it's either extremely late into the wipe because I failed to do it by playing it normally because there were simply no bosses to kill. And then there's goons. Don't even get me started on the fucking goons. And by the time I got the Kappa, I can't even enjoy it. And it's supposed to be a useful item that you're going to enjoy, not just a prestige item. Or by the time I acquired it because I got lucky and managed to get them all, I don't want to play the fucking game anymore. I am sick and tired of running like a chicken with no head looking for these bosses. I've played hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of raids doing the same thing. I don't feel like doing any more Tarkov at all anymore. Like, that's the two extremes, and one of the two is usually gonna happen. I've played so many wipes by now, and I almost always experience the same problem. By the time I acquire Kappa, because of a handful of bosses that I just cannot find, and then they added goons on top of that as well, and then they added more bosses and a billion more tasks. Like, the game is not the same now as it was 10 wipes ago. It's a billion more quests now than it was. Some are better, some are worse, and there's a shitload more of them. Like, by the time you do all that, you just don't feel like playing the game anymore. You're just so burned out. You just want to go touch grass. You want to do something else. And now, if you're a developer, why would you want this to happen? Like, you shouldn't want this to happen. You should want to prevent. You should want us sleeping with Tarkov on. Like, you want everybody to play your game all the time, non-stop. Everybody, all the time, constantly. Because that's how you gain the most. Like, I don't understand how they fail to realize that this is just burning people out. Most people never acquire Kappa. Most people never get to kill all the bosses or even see all the bosses. It's just... Glorious was saying that he didn't even see a Reshala body from start of the wipe. Previous wipe, I was level 46? I think 46. I wasn't even in the same raid with Reshala. Literally. Like, not that I didn't get to kill him and I ran into him like 20 times. No, I never ran into him, and so did nobody else. Because I was going to the 3 locations that he spawns, and there was no bodies, there was no gunfire, nothing. Sometimes you would think that it is, but it would just be players doing the same thing, and then they would create so much gunfire that you thought it was a boss, and then you get there and you realize there's just dead scavs and dead players, but no Reshala, no guards. And yeah, sure, I didn't get to check every raid that I was in exactly if they were there, because sometimes you're gonna do other shit, sometimes you're just gonna die. Level 46, do you have any idea how many raids it takes to get to that level, especially if you're just questing and doing stuff and you're not like the best player in the world? Dude, that's not normal. And customs was my main map. Like, I loved customs. I'm starting to hate it a little bit more with the new changes. I love the fact that they opened passages and you don't have to all go through like the 2 same spots anymore. Opening those passages was great. Opening up those buildings, which are nothing but like concrete Wookiees now, they're like that's a horrible change in my opinion. Like, opening all those buildings where every window can now be a sniper location just turned customs into such a nightmare map all of a sudden. But I do like that they opened passages so you can move to like 5-6 different locations. You don't have to go to like 2 of the same ones. Regardless, I digress. Customs was my one of the 2 favorite maps. It was either Interchange or Customs. And for the most part, I was going to the places which are buildings, either dorms or stronghold or gas stations or power station, whatever, because it would be more pleasant to watch for the viewers when it's not super hyper pixelated. Now, this guy's playing Labs, which is like the best optimized map at the time because there's not a lot of foliage, and it's still super pixelated back in the day. It's better now. But still, like, playing Shoreline or Woods or anything like that and not being indoors was horrible for the viewers if you're a streamer. So you really wanted to play somewhere where people are going to be able to actually see what's happening, not have everything pixelized and all that jazz. And I spend a lot of time playing playing those maps. Not having good loot, removing containers, fucking up keys, removing bosses. You're just killing the map. You're killing the player base. You're killing the people's reason to play. This is not about complaining or bitching or whining. It's facts. It's literally facts.
issues, and it just becomes a negative space every single wipe. Now, you know, there's a lot of other issues in Tarkov, but I do think this is one issue that is definitely kind of not spoken about enough. Solutions, what can they do to fix this? Leave Arena the way it is. I think it's fine. Leave Scav running the way it is. Maybe make it so you can't choose the map on your Scav before you've got max Scav karma. You guys...
Leaving Arena the way it is, sure. A lot of people are complaining that the arena is shit. I don't know what he means by leave the arena the way it is, the game itself, or the way that it's integrated with the actual Tarkov. I don't mind that the game is integrated into in the actual Tarkov itself. I don't mind that you can progress your character level there as well and get some goodies for that. It really helps you out. But that's really the contradictory part. Like, you want to slow the progression down, but I can go play Arena, do a couple of dailies, get insane amount of rubles without losing anything for the most part. Rubles, GP coins, other stuff, Lega coins, and character level without ever endangering my character on the main Tarkov or any of the money I have there. In fact, just pouring in more resources into my main target. I don't have a problem with that. Sure, it speeds up the progress quite a lot, actually, and it makes it a lot easier for people, but at least you have to play. You have to earn this. Scav players, I do have a problem with. They are literally the leeches of Tarkov. Tarkov without Scavs would not be Tarkov. I love Scavs. Their whole premise of Scavs and their interactions and everything, like, I love the idea of Scavs. What I don't like is Scavs having the ability to tank 7 million bullets, especially Scav bosses. It's very unnatural. It's very, very stupid and artificial, the way they boost bosses, because they don't know how to make them better. In a game that's supposed to be so realistic, half simulator, it's like, it's a really stupid way of doing it. And what I don't like is the fact that there are Scav players that risk absolutely nothing, and they're capable of endangering actual PMCs. That is just, the level of unfairness there is limitless. It's just two different worlds that shouldn't be coming into an interaction with each other. I understand that the way that they design Scav is, if your PMC is going so bad and you're broke, that you can go in with a Scav, and just by extracting, you'll have some gear to get in with your PMC, or you can spend some money selling. You can get some money by selling those items, right? And then buying the gear that you want for your PMC. I get that. It's like a safety net. And it makes sense, so you don't have to go in naked and hope you find a weapon while you're being tagged and cursed. Sure. Which is why one of the solutions, which would be make Scav runs like labs. If you want to play a Scav, you have to pay 150,000 rubles per raid. You want to play a Scav? You want to get free gear? You want to have the level already half done, most PMCs potentially already dead, loot lying everywhere? Yeah, pay. It's like entering an arena after it's already been, people have already fought. It's like people buying garages and then hoping that they return their investment, right? Make people have to pay money in order to play the fucking Scav that risks absolutely nothing. That would make sense. However, then you don't have the option anymore that if you go completely broke, there's no more safety net. So that's a problem. I understand. Okay, there's other solutions. Don't mix PMCs with Scav players. It's not fair for the PMC. It's not fair that there's a guy that spent 20 minutes, 30 minutes into the raid, fighting for his life, trying to do quests, try to get some loot. he ran into other PMCs, potentially bosses, but most likely not, scavs and scav players, and then you show up with your SKS and you one-tap this guy that's getting overwhelmed, out of ammo, out of meds, and he didn't even have the chance to leave the map because he's constantly being overwhelmed by an insane amount of scavs coming at him, and scav players and whatever. Like, he can't even loot his kills, he can't even heal properly or repack, he's just getting completely overwhelmed. And that's been happening for multiple wipes now. It's not fair. Then you get to kill him and you get to loot everything else. And if any other scav kills you, they lose the karma for it. If they kill the PMC, they gain the karma for it. Fuck you. That's not fair towards the actual players, the PMCs. If you want to have scavs, then put scav players in the raid where there are no PMCs left. Literally. Or give PMCs an option. Upon entering the raid, do you accept that there might be scav players in your raid? No. They can all go fuck themselves. They can take this, they can shove it up, and they can sit on it. No. Just no. I want to play against other PMCs and the AI. I don't want to play against people who are pretending to be PMCs or AI, but they're actually neither. They stand to gain everything and lose absolutely nothing besides a little bit of their time. That's a broken-ass fucking system that's completely unfair towards the people that are actually trying to play the game the way the game is supposed to be played. So, either have the scav players have to pay a decent amount of money so they're not just running around and risking like they don't give a shit, because there is actually something to lose. They are already in the deficit upon entering the raid because they had to pay the money, which is why Labs is a problematic map. And then they're like, yeah, I don't want to just run into a PMC and get killed. I want to make sure that I get out with enough loot that I can pay off the 150k that I paid to get in here, and then some. Plus, anything these mother truckers get out with is also found in raid and counts towards their actual PMC progression and questing items and hideout now. Like, come on. They stand to gain everything, they stand to lose nothing, while the PMCs stand to lose everything. It's not fair. And the even crazier aspect behind this is the fact that sometimes on some maps, my chair is sinking again, scavs spawn a couple of minutes in the raid. It's a 45-minute raid. The fucker spawns at 41st minute. Are you kidding? Are you actually kidding? And a lot of these scavs don't actually spawn on the outskirts of the map. They spawn in the middle of the map. They're actually at the heart of the map where the best loot potentially is. They already spawned there. They're actually there before the PMCs could even arrive. Or in the middle of all of it. It's like 45-minute map. 37, 38, 35 minutes in, the players' scavs are already spawning. Dude, come on. They're supposed to be spawning in the last half of the timer. If it's a 40-minute map, I don't want to see. I don't even want to think about a scav player before 15, 20 minutes into the raid. If it's the last 10, 15 minutes, I know there's going to be scav players running around. But then when you spawn that late, you gotta rush the loot spots that if you're a scav player, you gotta rush the loot spots, because if you want to get any loot, you don't have the time to fuck around. Even if you want to stalk a player or anything like that, you don't have a time. You gotta make a move immediately if you smell any of them. The whole player scavs being in the same raids as the PMCs is just not fair. It's not that I can't handle it or anything like that. I've killed shitload of scav players. I just don't think it's fair. And I am not the greatest player by any stretch of imagination. There's billion better players than me, but I'm still much better than an average player. And I'm just telling you, it's not fair towards the PMC, regardless if you're average or not. It's really not fair. You should either have to pay money, then you have something to lose. You're either not supposed to be on the same raid as PMCs, or you can spawn in the last 10-15 minutes. You just run around, grab a couple of leftovers, and get the fuck out. That would be fair. Scavving should be left to the last 20% of the raid time and should spawn on the outside just like PMCs. Exactly. The amount of times that I played on Interchange a few wipes ago, you would spawn in with like less than 10 minutes and you spawn on the outside. You're like, fuck! I don't have time to do shit. You just rush inside, loot the first shit that you can find and get the hell out and hope you don't go MIA, right? And even if you do, you didn't lose anything. You don't lose anything. So Arena can stay the way it is, sure. Scavs need changing. Scav players need changing. Absolutely. And bosses should be there normally. I'm not going to say every raid you play, but every couple of raids you should be running into a boss. Between 2, 3, and 5 raids. Every 2, 3 to 5 raids, you should be running into a boss. Consistently. That would be fair. And bring back the fucking containers, goddammit. That was when the game was the most fun.
You guys might flame me for that, but I think that's a fair balance, considering how broken Scav is. But hey, that's a different video. Bosses. So, Hyper had a good idea. You know, maybe use the figurines. You can put it in the Intel Center. And the next raid that you load, there's like a 20% increase for that boss to spawn. And that's for the entire server.
Not a bad idea.
What would that do? I'm not saying this is my idea. I'm just giving you an example of someone else's.
Those figurines would be expensive as holy shit at that point. Like, that would be super expensive if that was how it worked.
You put the figurine into the Intel Center. It gives a use to that item. Like, for example, the killer figurine, okay? If you guys didn't know, if you use the killer figurine in the cultist sacrifice thing, there's a chance that it gives you the killer helmet, which is really good. And that allows you to hand it in for the quest without having to kill killer. I did that for all my boss quests already. Really good change, by the way. Good job, BSG. Really good. But you know what? Why not take that a step further, like Hyper said? Grab the figurine, throw it into your intel. I don't know, some sort of sacrifice, whatever you want to call it. The next raid that you load, there's a 20% increase to that boss that can spawn, and it affects the entire server, so everyone gets it. So it's a win-win for everyone. And what does that do to the item? It makes the item have more value. It makes the raids feel a bit more unique, and it adds a new dynamic to Tarkov raids, which I can see why Hyper suggested this. Now, I think it's a cool idea. Is it practical? Probably not. It would probably take a lot of time to develop something like that with matchmaking. That was just a cool idea of something that could be done to, make some unique interactions in the game and overall just increase the quality of Tarkov when it comes to playing raids. Now, my suggestion would be buff up the boss spawn rates every wipe and keep it at like 15%. Okay, 15% I think is fair.
Too little.
Wipe. Maybe when we get first month into the wipe, bump it up to 20% or 25%. Then the second month, maybe put it at 30%. The third month, maybe 35, 40%. And then around that time, that's when you've already lost your players anyway. So if bosses are at a point where it's like you can see them once every 3 raids or 4 raids, I think a lot of people, will be more understanding and deal with the long queue times, dealing with dying to cheaters because of the bosses having good stuff for quests, stuff like that. That's probably the simplest way to do it, but obviously, that's probably not going to happen. I thought of another good idea. This is just my opinion. You don't have to agree with it. And it could actually help Tarkov a lot. Every day, make one map have a boosted modifier for a certain boss. So, on Tuesday, Rashala spawns at a 35% spawn rate. And on Wednesday, Killer spawns at, a 40% spawn rate. And what we could do with that is, if it rotates every single day for different bosses, the devs could do something like, a community contribution to a boss, where all of the players in the game have got to contribute to something to boost up the spawn rate of a boss. That adds a massive, community effort to do something in the game, which I think would be really cool, because everyone needs those bosses. And what would that do for the game? Everyone would jump on the game to be excited, because, oh, dude, we got to get on. Bosses are 50% spawn rate in this map right now. That'd be a great time to go play the map. It would introduce a lot of people to come back to the game for when...
Sure, I can see the appeal to what he's saying, and to a degree, I agree with it, but in the same time, that means that so many people would be playing on that map, which would make the map very popular and the queue times hopefully lower, which is great. But the bad side, the downside is literally everybody on that map would be rushing the same boss, doing the same thing. And again, even if the boss spawns, the chances of you getting there and killing him and then getting out with his eye is incredibly low. But at least you get the chance, right? At least there's an opportunity, unlike now, where I'm doing exactly the same thing and everybody else is doing exactly the same thing and we're murdering each other over no bosses. But yeah.
When they need it for their quest. And it would just add a big dynamic for Tarkov raids. And it would be more of a community involvement too. And, you know, BSG could be like, okay, you know, it's Thursday. We're going to make the goon spawn on Shoreline at a 40%. And you can boost it up to 60% or something if you do this certain task as a community. Like, get, you know, 100,000 scav headshots across the community within a certain time frame. I think you guys get the idea. I'm not, like, going into depth with this, but I think you get where I'm coming from. That is just an idea. In my opinion, they don't need to do that. Just make bosses reasonable. But hey, not a bad idea, I don't think. It could involve community interaction. It could be really fun for the game because it adds unique days to play Tarkov. You're like, oh, dude, it's Wednesday and we're, you know, Gluhar's spawning, higher percent rate. I'm gonna hop on real quick and go look for the boss. It can make that map super populated with PvP because the boss is a higher spawn rate. You get the idea. I don't really know the solution. These are just ideas. And I'm throwing out there. And I just wanted to give you guys a bit of perspective on how streamers are indirectly ruining the game. Not because we want to, because the developers look at the streamers of the game as the majority of people that play. And are like, oh yeah, let's just nerf the hell out of it because streamers
These spots will be the hottest spot in the game, yeah.
The reality is, guys, streamers will always get past any barricade that you guys put up with time restrictions and low spawn rates. Why? Because we get to play all the time, every single day. The people that are actually the core of this community, which is the casuals, in my opinion. I know people won't play the game and because it's too hard to swipe, but they are still the audience of people that keep this game going. The masses. Stop nerfing the game for those guys. You're using us as a tool to nerf stuff because we can progress fast. And the sad reality is, the only person that gets affected by this is the masses. Not us. We can just keep playing and go next. That's pretty much the premise of this entire video, and it makes more sense the more you think about it over the past few years with the changes that this game has had. But hey, listen, you guys might not agree with me or whatever I've said. That's completely fine. I don't really like making these type of videos because it does definitely upset a few people and people just see it as complaining. But I'm just trying to give a bit of perspective on this situation that's happened every single wipe in Tarkov, and it's always the same. Not just Glorious complaining, a lot of other streamers are complaining, even people in my chat are complaining about the same issue. And you can't really blame people, man. No one wants to waste an hour in matching to die to a Cheeto when the boss they've been looking for finally spawns. And that really is what it comes
Oh
down
yeah,
to.
I didn't even touch on that
hope you
topic.
guys enjoyed this
Oof.
video. I don't know if I'll make another video like this in the future. We'll see. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about this topic. I do think it's definitely something that is pretty true. And yeah, thank you for watching, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the Yap Fest or whatever. And I'll see you in the stream live on every day, twitch.tv/Tigs. And yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even touch on the topic that when you do finally meet these bosses that you're trying to hunt, and then you run into a cheater. Yeah, let's just say you don't really feel like playing the game anymore. That's the problem I had with Goons. Goons and Reshala. I would play customs, because Goons were on customs, and you couldn't even approach the stronghold. Like, you literally couldn't approach it. From any direction you tried to approach, you would just get murdered. Sometimes they would murder you from afar, because they don't want you to even get close. And sometimes they would wait for you to get close, and then they would murder you. But these people knew exactly where you were at all times. No, I'm not talking about goons. I'm talking about cheaters that are there to kill or farm goons. Or, you know, they're there on RMTing for someone and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Tiggs did this very, very apologetic and very calm and very... and all that. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm a lot more energetic and I get a lot more tilted and triggered about things. You know, that's just the way I am. I agree with his points, though. For the most part, We might have different solutions for the same problem, but I agree with pretty much everything that he said. Some things really need changing, and they need fixing, and it's pushing the players away. Hell, if it can push people like myself that are streamers away from the game, then I can only imagine how much it can push other people. And at this point, like, yeah, if you get pushed so hard because you keep trying to achieve something and then you keep not being able to do it, and on top of that, your progress gets reset, then I can understand more and more why people want to run away into the PvE. Because in PvE, it's like, at least there's no resets, and eventually the bosses will be normal raids, and I'll be able to get everything, and I'll be able to do everything, and I'll be able to feel like I've actually accomplished something. Even though technically it's kind of a, what do you call that in English? It's not a real achievement. It's like you get a participation medal because, while everybody was racing on a bicycle, you were sitting on a bicycle that has 3 wheels and was being driven by your mom, for example. I don't know. Farce. Yeah, it kind of. It's like, it's just not the same because it's not PvP. PvE is always going to be predictable. Well, that's how people get good at murdering bosses and raiders and everything. Like, do it enough times, you know exactly how they're gonna act, and you can predict them and ambush them and all this jazz. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. And if you get beat, you got beaten by software, not by an actual guy. So even getting beat doesn't feel the way it should feel, if you know what I mean. But yeah, anyway, I don't know. I've been ranting. Well, ranting. I'm sure a lot of people will call this ranting, but I do like to talk about shit that gets to me, whether it's in a good or a bad way, with some energy and passion. That's just the way I am. I don't know how long this lasted. I mean, the video is 26. I've been probably talking about it for an hour, if not more, probably more. But I don't know. I might upload this to YouTube. See how people react. Subscribe to Tigz, literally TIGZ on YouTube, and I'm sure it's the same on Twitch. But yeah, I might upload this as some sort of a react to it because it's a good video, and I like the topics. And I think it's one of the major issues, if we don't count on the 2 major issues, which is sound and desync, which has been a problem since I started playing this game years ago, and it's still a problem to this day. In fact, it feels like even worse in some regards, but yeah. The actual game itself used to be a lot more fun to play. It felt a lot more rewarding. Tarkov was always high highs and low lows. Now it just feels like there's a lot of lows and very few highs to begin with. So yeah, thank you for watching. Follow, subscribe, comment. Let me know what you guys think about the whole topic. You can also find me on Twitch and Discord and Twitter and everything. You have all the links below. And yeah. If I do end up uploading on YouTube, thank you for watching and listening. Make sure you do let me know what you thought about it. And I'll see you in the next one. I got both my kitties here. Anyways.